in the so-called extrajudicial killings or alleged state-sanctioned killings continue in the Philippines. The author of a law which applies our violations further stressed that governments ought not to be preying on a vulnerable population and that these continued actions may undermine the mutual goals of Philippine-U.S. relationships, which uphold liberal democratic ideals and the law. In this connection, we would like to stress that the fundamental relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines remains unchanged by aberrations due to political perspective and opinions. We continue to surge forward even as we attempt a deeper understanding of each other's methods. We respect the opinion of others, but we also give ourselves the permission to chart our own course and fulfill our destiny on our own terms. We'd also like to stress that extrajudicial killings is not state-sanctioned and that the Philippines remains committed to human rights, the rule of law, and to democracy. The Philippines has not veered away from these basic principles despite the strong stance of the President. The drug problem in the Philippines itself is so pervasive that it undermines the human rights of the people and the rule of law. The Philippines is steadfast in its commitment to international covenants on HR, of which it is a signatory. Civil and political rights continue to be enjoyed by all Filipinos, and press freedom continues in spite of the apparently over negative emphasis that it places against the drive over illegal drugs. Also, regarding the matter of the Bilibid riot, it is best for us to wait for the investigations to be finished. Regarding the House Justice Chair being cool to showing certain videotapes, it is fair to say that the President will not meddle in the affairs of the Congress. It is not his territory. On the lighter side, President Duterte is off to Vietnam for a 2-day visit, and he eyes cooperation with Vietnam in the zero and war on drugs. This is part of the President's foreign policy of seeking open alliances with neighboring countries and pursuing amity among all nations. The 2-day working visit is seen to cement relationships with Vietnam, and the President is confident the relationship between the two countries will become even stronger, pursue that it has to be with mutual respect, closer cooperation, and deeper understanding. This is part of the shift of the President's foreign policy, where he seeks not just exclusive relationships, but a more inclusive relationship with neighboring countries. Regarding the desire of Mr. Miswari to ask for amnesty for Abu Sayyaf, the President has said there will be no negotiations with the group. Also, as a last point, it is safe to say, according to ADB economist Chongvi Lavian, that the current weaknesses of the peso is mainly due to speculations on the possible increase of Federal Reserve rates. And as Budget Secretary mentioned, Ben Jokno said, part of this supposed outflow is due to profit-taking by other investors. Thank you very much. We'll be open to a few questions. Yes, sir.
Sir, good morning. Sir, on the Philippine-U.S. relations, what's your basis on actually saying that the U.S.-Philippines relationship and ties unchanged, considering with the latest now pronouncement of the president that he no longer uh, continue with the Balikatan exercises and this October war game would be the last?
Okay. There are certain, the government runs, of course, on certain treaties and pacts, which the president has said during his inaugural speech that he will honor and we will honor. However, there are also certain modifications in the relationship. And so the relationship remains solid according to the agreements, but also there will be other activities that will be more open to other nations too.
But isn't that stopping the joint military exercises within our territory is dishonoring actually the Mutual Defense Treaty, which provides that provision for that exercise?
Okay. Basically, this is the position of the president, and this is the way he has presented it. However, these things will only be completed when the proper actions have been taken. In other words, this declares the president is making statements regarding his intentions about being more inclusive.
Sir, last point. Aren't we concerned that a possible sanction, especially on the economic side, U.S. would impose on that, especially on holding or freezing on the investment for you, considering U.S. remains to be the largest trading partner of the
We
country?
understand that, and as you have seen, the president is also strengthening his relationships with neighboring countries, and this is part of being more inclusive in our economic relationships.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next
Yes,
question.
Ms. Kalalang.
Ina Andolong of CNN
Andolong.
Philippines. Hindi ako yun, sir.
Apologies. Apologies.
Sir, you mentioned something about taking the proper actions. Correct
Regarding?
me, for the last joint exercises with the U.S.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but with respect to the Balikatan exercises,
Okay.
this is an annual event,
Yes.
and it could be ended, I believe, if both parties agree to it.
Right,
Does
yeah.
this mean that, I mean, when will the administration start talking to the U.S. about this? And are we certain that this year's or 2017 po ba yung magiging huli?
There are no definite dates, no definite timeline, but it's part of the president's intention. Okay, so there's actually no timeline set as of now. Thank you.
Sir, apart from the Balikatan, I understand there are also separate joint exercises
Okay.
with the different AFP units. Yun din po ba? Will that be covered by what the president said yesterday?
I suppose it is an inclusive statement, that just sets the general tone and general direction that he wants our foreign policy to take. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Any more questions?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Sir, dun sa issue ng ENDO o ng end of contract, Secretary Judy Tagiwalo of the DSWD mentioned that there are about 23 or so thousand workers within DSWD are either casual or contractual. So do we intend to start within our own house to end ENDO?
Definitely, the intention is such. However, we are not privy yet to the actual steps that they will take. But definitely, this is something that we would like to address even within our own backyard.
Yeah, so
Thank
we can rightfully assure our co-workers in the government who are still casual and contractual to be made permanent.
I don't know about the word assure, but we can assume that that is the intention.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
Yes, Ms.
Rosalie Cos of UNTV.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Hingi lang po namin yung reaction nyo regarding po sa statement na sinasabi na unfortunate po yung foreign policy ni Pangulong Duterte. Kahit na sinasabi nyo po at ni Secretary Yasay na we are pursuing amity with all nations, but the President is making harsh statements against EU and the US.
So what is the question?
Reaction po dun sa statement na sinasabi
Sino
ng iba
nagsabi
na,
ng statement?
particularly po Secretary, Foreign Affairs Secretary, former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario.
Okay. Well, he is welcome to his own perception. However, we need to bring into consideration the particular policy that the president is bringing us into. He is actually, in a sense, is really bringing a shift in the direction. So, given that there is a shift that's happening, so it is not unfortunate, but it is part of a process, difficult as it may be, but it is part of a process which the president sees is setting our own independent chart, our own independent course. So in the light of that, it is not unfortunate. It may be difficult and it may be challenging, but definitely the president sees it as something that will actually add to our well-being and prosperity as a nation.
So yun po yung way ng President na sabihin, magbigay ng mga harsh statements against po sa US.
Siguro, we need to see, you're seeing the style, but you need to see the substance behind the style. As the president says again and again and said earlier, look behind my words and see the actual situation of the people and the nation. So beyond the style, which is what you term as harsh, is the substance, which is to set the direction of an independent and free Philippines. Thank
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
Yes.
Mr. Henry Uri of DZRH.
Secretary, on the Balikatan exercise, if sooner or later we're going to end up that Balikatan exercise, does this mean that our government is now opening our door for possible joint military exercises with Russia and China?
I cannot speak for that. That is already policy. But all I can say is that the president at this stage is saying that we're moving from an exclusive relationship with the U.S. into a more open relationship with others. But I'm not saying that it will lead to joint efforts with others.
So hindi pa ho napag-uusapan yan?
Hindi pa po.
Okay.
Next question,
Anything else?
please.
Yes.
Sir, dun sa, on the issue of former Pangasinan Governor Espino, sir, can you categorically say, just to clear the suspicion of the public, especially in the social media, that there is no deal or whatever convenient or political expediency consideration? That's why the name Amado Espino was removed or cleared by the president from the drug list?
If you say categorically, I cannot actually say that it was made as a political convenience. No, there was no political accommodation. As far as I know, and as far as we all know, there is no political accommodation. But definitely, if I know the character of the president, there was no such thing.
Sir, also, there is this sentiment that if you have the channel to talk personally with the president, if you are in a position, for example, the case of Espino, when he has this personal dialogue with the president before he was cleared, you can easily do that, and you have the chance to explain yourself and be cleared. How about daw yung they have no access to talk personally with the president, to explain themselves for due process?
I don't have any opinions about that. But definitely, if it happened that a particular personality was cleared, it is, I'm sure, based on facts that have been made available to the president.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just to clear.
All right.
Next question. Trisha Macas of GMA News Online.
Hi, sir.
Excuse me. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, the president apologized for some lapses in the narco list. Can we still trust his narco list?
Come again?
He apologized because there were lapses. So, is there a chance that the other names he announced are not really into the trade, the illegal drugs trade?
Maybe more than trusting the list, let's trust the president. I mean, after all, he has publicly said, I made a mistake. I apologize. I'm sorry. You know, what more can you, instead of just saying, would you rather have him just flood on and say, it's okay, it's okay. But actually, there was a mistake. The point is, I think, the one that we trust is not so much the list, but the president himself, who has the actual humility to be able to accept that he made a mistake. Thank
Sir,
you.
another question
Yes.
on another topic. The president the other day said that Filipinos should sacrifice a little bit. When I'd like to quote him, why I'm asking the Filipinos in the coming days kung totohanin talaga ng Amerika, I'm going to ask you to sacrifice a little bit. But by next year would have entered alliances with so many countries. What does he mean by that? You sacrifice a little bit.
I think it's in connection with the other question earlier. What would happen to the Philippines if, regarding if the U.S.-Philippine relationship was sufficiently disturbed so that investments were removed? I believe that our relationships go deeper than that. However, given the fear, he was asking, would the Filipinos believe enough in the nation to set a course, to set an independent course in spite of economic difficulties, if and when it should happen? He's not saying it will, but he said if and when it should happen, would we be willing enough, would we be patriotic enough to stand behind the Philippines in declaring an independent foreign policy? Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Ina Andalong of CNN Philippines.
Sir, just to press a little on the lapses in the drug matrix.
Okay.
That drug matrix landed on the president's table.
Yes.
What makes us certain that the lists of drug suspects, let's say with the police officials, are credible as well? Because as we know, I mean, doesn't this issue maybe prompt police authorities to be extra careful in going after drug suspects in their own lists? Because of possible lapses there as well.
Okay.
Especially dahil, as we know, in their operations, marami pong who end up being killed.
All right. So your question?
Doesn't this problem prompt maybe police officials to be extra careful in going after drug suspects in their
Yes.
own lists?
Yes.
Because there may be lapses there. Kung nagkaroon ng problema po dun sa nakarating na matrix sa presidente, paano po sa kanila, lalo na't sa operations nila, marami pong namamatay o napapatay.
As the president said, at the end of the day, he makes the call. Right? He makes the call. So, definitely, it will make the personnel, the police personnel, prompt them to be more careful. However, at the end of the day, as they said, it is the president who makes the final announcements on the list. Okay, so regarding the list and regarding the police activities, I think there's a difference there. They will have to pursue what they feel is right on the ground level, and the president also made his own options and choices regarding the announcements, and that is also his call. So these are two separate things.
Okay. Any more questions?
Okay, last question maybe.
Last question. Any more questions?
Yes.
Benji Liwanag of DZBB.
Sir, yung IRR, Implementing Rules and Regulation of the Centenarian Act,
Okay.
was already signed by the President. Now, sir, do we have enough funds to support yung mga ibibigay na pera dun sa mga
If you were here
centenarian?
the other day during the briefing, I think Secretary Diokno said, yes, we will find funds for that.
That would be for next year. How about, sir, next month, October 7, will be, I think, grandparents or elders
Okay.
month for them. Mahahabol ho ba ng government ito?
I cannot speak for that, but definitely Secretary Diokno said that they will find funds. I don't know exactly when it will begin, but they will find funds for that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our press briefing. Wala. Okay. So,